Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. At the latest count, we have about 200, and the number keeps going up, 217 folks from campus who have signed in. And I hope your spring is going well. Beautiful day out today. And hopefully we're turning the corner and getting out of the dark, cold winter. But I'm so glad that you're here today. Today's town hall session is going to be a little bit different than the ones that we've had in the past. This one is going to focus on facilities and construction. And there's just a ton of work happening on campus or planned to be happening on campus. And so today is a great way for all of us to get information about these plans, both in terms of the long range plan, which is building that new campus plan, the 10-year plan for new projects, but also construction and activities that are happening in the near term. And so I'll turn it over to our Vice President for Finance and Operations, Karla Mongeon-Stewart, who's going to introduce what's happening today and give an overview of the presentation, and then turn it over to the members of her team to talk about key areas of interest to you. So thanks, everybody. And thanks, Karla.
Thank you, President Armacost. Welcome, everybody. We're really excited to be able to get together and share some of this information in a more personal fashion. We've got an agenda today, and I wanted to share that briefly before I get my team started to talking about these issues. We're going to first have a few-minute update from Les Bjore regarding the campus planning and master planning and how that is all going. And then we're going to shift into really some meat and potatoes of what kind of construction projects and updates and road closures are going to be occurring this summer and into the future. We have a lot of exciting things going on, but there's going to be some disruption. And so Corey Schock and Brian Larson will be sharing some information about some of those projects, how you might be impacted based on where your building is. And then we'll also be providing some information about what roads would be best for you to use as we work on this construction. Then we will follow up, last but not least, with Jenny Duffy, who will share with you all what parking lots might be seeing some closures or some construction work being done this summer. So thank you so much. 285 people, it looks like, are on. So thank you so much for attending. And I'm going to turn it over to Les Bjore right now. If Les, you want to give us an update on how campus master planning is going.
Yes, thank you. And I will make this quick because we have a lot on the agenda, but we are very excited to have our planning consultant, Perkins and Will, on campus this week, making their second visit to kick off the ideate phase, which is a conceptual phase. And this is the third phase of a five-phase project approach. And it will be a lot of fun, I promise, but it will also be extremely challenging as we convert the data we have gathered into a comprehensive long-term strategic guide for the physical development of the campus. So the venue for that kickoff of this phase is an open forum at the Nistler College of Business at 1 o'clock on Thursday. So that's tomorrow afternoon. So if you are open, your calendar is open, please attend. It will be greatly appreciated. This event will also be live streamed. And just one more item before I turn it back. If you have any questions or comments related to the campus planning, please stop and go online to the campus planning website, and you'll find an opportunity there to submit your questions. Okay, thank you.
With that, I will turn it over to Brian Larson, who's going to talk a lot about all of the construction plans that are going on this summer. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian Larson.
All right. Thank you, Karla, and thanks everyone for joining us here. I have a short PowerPoint that I will share to provide a little bit of visuals here as I go along. But I'll be sharing some information on a number of our construction projects, as well as a large construction project happening in the region here, and that is the reconstruction of the 42nd and DeMers intersection. That project is going to start here very shortly. If you take 40 seconds to get to and from work, you've probably already seen that there is orange barrels and traffic signs are starting to be staged in the area. So we're expecting to see contractors begin work as soon as next week, and they'll be primarily be focused on work happening outside of 42nd and DeMers, preparing for a temporary construction bypass. And so what you can see on the slide here, we've shown the green lines on the roadways that are expected to remain open throughout the first phase of the project. We should expect some lane closures and quite a bit of additional construction traffic throughout the area. But what you're seeing outside of the roadway is the construction of a temporary bypass that'll happen near the gas station and through the corner of Ray Richards Golf Course. That bypass will be put into use here in the next phase. So this project will start as soon as next week and is expected to last into middle of June. By mid-June, the 42nd and DeMers project is anticipated to close 42nd Street. On the north end of the project, it'll be closed at James Ray Drive. And on the south end of the project, it'll be closed at the construction bypass. And what you can see here in the green line is how DeMers traffic will travel around the construction site, going through the golf course next to the gas station, passing east and west. 42nd Street will be closed throughout the limits of the construction zone and then open again on the north end to allow traffic to pass from James Ray Drive up to University Avenue and then north up to Gateway. This will be quite the impact on a lot of us here for our access to campus. We do expect that this will be the phase of the project that'll be in place for Welcome Weekend this fall and throughout a good portion of the fall semester 2026. So the ideal way to access campus from I-29 will be via the US 2 Gateway Drive exit. And that'll be communicated with guests and families and incoming parents for Welcome Weekend. There'll be a temporary traffic signal constructed here at the south end, and then a hard closure here you can see highlighted in orange for James Ray Drive. The project for 42nd and DeMers will take overall approximately 2 years. There's a number of phases of the project. It's a very interesting, very intricate project. There's the construction of 2 separate bridges, one for the overpass and then one for the railroad line, a lot of utility work and numerous phases of roadway reconstruction. So we'll have to exercise patience and make sure that we're allowing plenty of time for additional construction traffic as well as detour traffic as we're coming to and from campus. Moving on to some projects here on campus itself, we will be reconstructing West Centennial Drive. West Centennial is in quite poor shape now after a number of years of heavy construction traffic at Nistler, Merrifield, and other related projects. So following spring commencement, crews will close off the portion of West Centennial Drive you see highlighted in orange. We'll be replacing the road surface as well as constructing a elevated and enhanced pedestrian crossing on 2nd Avenue. That'll provide a much more clear thoroughfare for people walking across 2nd Avenue, bring them up in elevation a bit, and make that crossing quite a bit more safe. Also included in this project will be updated utility lines, sidewalks, and infrastructure for future lighting. At that same time, a separate construction crew will be on campus replacing the Fox Memorial Pedestrian Bridge. So the old bridge has served us well, but it is time for a new bridge, which will be installed in approximately the same alignment as the old bridge. That bridge will be removed following spring commencement, and then we're hoping to have the new bridge open before homecoming 2026. Some of that does rely on the lead time for the bridge. So the new bridge will have new sidewalks leading to it on either side, enhanced lighting, and a much more improved architectural look that'll tie in with the rest of campus. We're really excited about this project. And then we don't want to miss a number of other large capital projects that are happening on campus as well. There's going to be extended truck traffic leaving the STEM project site here on the east end of campus. This pink line here shows the approved truck haul route for the STEM project. So we are anticipating quite the increase in construction traffic on the east end of campus via Cornell Street and Second Avenue. We also have planned for this summer the demolition of Babcock Hall. Again, that'll start in June, and truck traffic from Babcock Hall will be traveling south through the engineering parking lot and then accessing and egressing from campus to the west on Campus Road to Strinden Road out to Gateway. We're doing our best to separate construction traffic here and not create any safety concerns throughout the summer operations. At the same time, you can see the closure on Centennial Drive, as well as the Fox Memorial Bridge. Additionally, Jenny will cover this in a bit more detail, but we do have a maintenance project that'll be phased throughout the summer to improve the parking surface at the Chester Fritz Performing Arts Center lot. And then just a reminder here on the far west end of campus, 42nd Street will be closed south of James Ray Drive. The buildings here on the west end of campus, Aerospace, Skillicky, Ida Mae Route, and others will be best accessed from the north via Gateway and 42nd or University Avenue from the west. And I'll stop sharing there, but I'm not done. We have a number of other projects here happening on campus that I want to make sure everyone is aware of. We have a suite of projects underway now to vacate the occupants of Columbia Hall. The first one is the renovations at Twomley Hall for a new home for the Office of the Dean of Arts and Sciences. So Brad Runquist and his team will be relocating to the first floor of Twomley Hall here shortly. Those renovations are just wrapping up. Over at Gamble Hall, we are currently under construction to create new spaces for the Department of Psychology, Communication Sciences and Disorder, and the Northern Prairie Community Clinic. Those departments will transition from Columbia Hall over to Gamble Hall over this summer. And then lastly, now that there is a vacancy in the former bookstore space on Hamlin, we'll be renovating a space for biomedical engineering. Biomedical engineering will be moving from Columbia Hall over to the former bookstore space later in the fall semester. At that point, Columbia Hall will be closed. I mentioned the bookstore space has some vacancy. That's because the new bookstore space has opened up to the public. The new bookstore is located at the Field House at Memorial Village. That's on the intersection of University Avenue and Columbia Road. That bookstore opened up last Friday, and they have a grand opening event planned for May 6th. If you're trying to get there, the best place to park is the surface parking lot on 2nd Avenue North. That's the same parking area as you would use to access the Short and Tall restaurant that's recently opened as well. And then lastly, the Ray Richards Golf Course. The Ray Richards Golf Course will be closed to the public for the next 2 seasons, 2026 and 2027. A portion of the northwest corner of Ray Richards Golf Course has been acquired by the DOT for the DeMers and 42nd project. And the golf course itself will be realigned and reconstructed over the next 2 years and is planned to open up in 2028 as a 9-hole course, just slightly shorter than before. We're also including a number of accommodations for a potential future development at Ray Richards. With that, Karla, I think that's the end of my agenda.
Melanie, before we move to Corey, do we want to address some of the questions that have come in?
You read my mind, Karla.
Okay, great.
We do. We have a few questions that have been submitted to Brian. I'm going to direct them to you one at a time just so that we can have some clarification. The first one comes in as, was there any consideration with the 42nd and DeMers underpass of adding a back entrance to the Hilton Garden Inn across from the gas station? I think that kind of gets to another point of that would reduce the amount of traffic that would be on Ray Richards Drive. Or James Ray Drive, excuse me.
There will be some accommodations and some updates on James Ray Drive. We'll be updating the pedestrian crossings and then repainting a number of those crossings this summer to account for some additional traffic throughout the area. And so we've been working really closely with our Department of Safety and Environmental Health to prepare for the increase in traffic throughout James Ray Drive.
Excellent, thank you. What will traffic look like at the STEM building area, specifically at Columbia and 2nd Avenue and Cornell Street for Welcome Weekend? Can staff and students use the road all summer, or will that be closed at any point?
Yeah, the road will remain open, similar to how it was kept open throughout the demolition of the Hislop Sports Arena. But we should expect additional truck traffic. We will have flaggers out there when there's heavy hauling operations, encouraging pedestrians to use the sidewalk on the north side of 2nd Avenue near the parking ramp. But the road will remain open throughout, and we don't typically plan construction work during Welcome Weekend. So we try to be as quiet as we can to have a welcoming campus for our new students.
Thanks, Brian. I know we all appreciate that. Regarding Babcock Hall, will the removal of Babcock close part of the engineering parking lot?
Yes, it will close off a few stalls as we will be directing truck traffic directly in and out of the concrete parking lot just to the east of Carnegie. That concrete parking lot will be closed to provide enough space for the demolition process to happen safely. And then very limited impacts to the parking lot, the asphalt parking lot at the former steam plant site just to the south there.
Okay, thank you. And what is being done, Brian, to preserve historically significant aspects of Babcock? Architectural documentations, photos, any drone mapping of physical preservation?
Yeah, thank you. We've done everything you've mentioned there. We've completed a exterior 3D scan. We've also worked with a historical architect to complete a historical architectural building survey that will be submitted to the Historical Society as well as saved here on campus in our archives. There is a few elements of architectural salvage that we will be holding on to. And we're also coordinating closely with the President's office for future opportunities for memorialization.
Excellent, thank you.
Melanie, can I just add to that really quickly? I just wanted to make sure too, we have been working in lockstep with the State Historical Society on this project. And so they are being involved at every step of the way to make sure that we can memorialize this building appropriately. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew we've been working hand in hand with them for this entire project.
Thanks, Karla. Brian, has there been any thought about the congestion exiting the parking ramp during the construction?
Yeah, it will be congested, similar to the demolition process as well. And so we've been focusing on that area with our safety team, trying to find opportunities to make sure that the pedestrians can pass through that area safely. It'll continue to be an area of high focus here for facilities as well as campus safety.
Thank you. Back to Babcock Hall. Do you know if there's any plans to replace Babcock Hall, like with a parking lot or green space, or what will happen when it comes down?
Yeah, in the immediate, that corner of campus will be returned to green space with a sidewalk passing through to account for pedestrian routes. And then we'll pause there as decisions are made at the executive level for future planning.
Okay. And then Brian, what will the new biomedical science building be called, the former bookstore space?
That's a great question. We are in discussion now. We've just started to broach that subject with our marketing team. I think it's still up in the air, but that will require state board action. So it'll certainly be publicly announced when the decision is made.
Thanks, Brian. Now we have another question, but it's referencing parking, and I know we're going to get an update later from Jen Duffy on parking. So I'm going to hold that question till that portion. So thank you very much. VP Mongeon-Stewart, would you like to kick us off to the next topic?
Absolutely. I apologize. I struggle with the video button for some reason. Next, I would like to introduce Corey Schock, and he is going to talk about some infrastructure and maintenance projects that are going to be occurring this summer. Corey has the luxury of being the guy that gets to handle everything under the ground, all the, not fun stuff and glorious stuff, but he and his teams do an amazing job. And so, Corey, I will turn it over to you to talk a little bit about some infrastructure upgrades we'll be making and also any maintenance projects you want to share.
All right, thank you, Vice President Stewart. I would like to start by giving an update on our electrical and steam utility infrastructure improvement projects. We have 4 larger projects within our steam and condensate utilities this year. These projects will replace aging buried condensate pipe on campus. These projects will not disrupt our steam service across campus, but you may notice excavation in these areas. These areas will include the west edge of the EERC complex. So there'll be work continuing around Mat X. There'll be a project south of MV1 in Pollard along the south edge of Campus Road, the gravel area. That will affect the edge of the football practice field. And then we'll also have a project near the Tech Accelerator right on the edge of the 42nd underpass construction project. And the last condensate project will occur south of the Wellness Center, basically connecting all the way up to 6th Avenue. So in those areas, again, no disruption to our steam utilities, but there will be trenching and excavating going on for the duration. We also have a couple electrical distribution projects in the works right now. One of the projects we started in the fall of 2024. We'll be completing this project, which was an upgrade of our electrical circuits 2, 3, and 4. This project should be completed by the end of June. When complete, this project will have replaced cabling that is over 45 years old, improving the resiliency of our system and ability to backfeed across our distribution system on campus. So we're excited about those upgrades to the campus, and we do apologize that it's taking so long, but equipment and or winter conditions has been a challenge for us. Along with those improvements come a little bit of pain we'll be having to do multiple outages. Some of the outages will be between 3 to 4 hours, but we'll also have some extended outages that will be 6 to 8 hours in duration. We'll be planning these for late May, working with departments to schedule, get an understanding of events happening on campus. These outages will be planned for early mornings, evenings, and weekends if necessary. Prior to these outages that we're scheduling for the end of the month, we do have a short outage coming up that we're looking to schedule within the next 7 to 10 days for our Circuit 3 outage. This will be an outage approximately 1 hour in length, and will go from approximately 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. Within the next few days, we'll be reaching out to departments and notifying them of the buildings that are affected. One other electrical project that will be starting this summer will be the replacement of the last overhead electrical cabling on campus. This project will end up running from Selke along the bike path to 6th Avenue, and then run along 6th Avenue from Princeton Street over to Carlton Court. So this summer you could expect additional trenching along 6th Avenue and boring for the installation of conduit. This underground work will not have any outages this year, so it will be mainly just excavation type work that you'll be seeing. Overall completion of this project will not be, though, until fall of 2027. And then just a quick update on our landscaping across campus now that we hope that we're done moving snow for the season. Our landscaping team's working around campus now on spring cleanup, getting the campus ready for graduation and spring events. Come June, we'll see an influx of temporary staff onto campus that will help with flower planting, mowing, weeding, and then just general landscaping care. One point of emphasis I do want to make, because we've heard a lot of feedback, good and bad, but we've received a lot of compliments with how great the flowers look along University Avenue. But we've also received some constructive feedback regarding the height of those flowers and the type of plants that we have planted in the past near crosswalks that have caused visibility issues. We do take the safety of pedestrians crossing seriously. So we are looking at a plan, and we do have a plan in place for this coming summer that will address those concerns while still allowing University Avenue to look very creative and as well as it has looked in the past. And
Thanks,
that is
Corey.
all I have. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions before we move on to the next topic that have come in. The first question is, what is the expected extent of the planned outages, such as will be the internet, phone, etc.?
It will be a full electrical outage, with the exception of life safety in buildings that have generator and such. So for the most part, the buildings will go dark.
How much notice will units in those buildings that will affect the outages have prior to?
Okay, so for the Circuit 3 outage that we're looking to schedule 7 days out from now, possibly next Thursday, those buildings will be getting notified hopefully tomorrow. That'll be a 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. outage, minimal impact. The other outages, we're looking at gathering campus event dates now and starting to work with departments on what the end of May looks like. So, and if it has to be pushed into June, we'll push it into June to find the right opening. A couple of the outages will have back-to-back outages. It'll be a 3 to 4 hour outage one day, followed by a 3 to 4 hour outage the following day. So the 6 to 8 hour outage I mentioned will just occur once, though.
Corey, do you want to also talk about the fiber optic project that we are doing for the airport? That's another exciting project that we've got working on.
I would actually flip that to Brian.
Okay.
Sure, I sure can. Yes, thanks, Karla. We've been coordinating with UIT for a authorization request and then a upcoming project to replace the fiber optic communications line that extends from the data center here on the west end of campus out to the airport. I believe it's approximately 7.5 miles of fiber optic line. The project would replace the existing line that is unfortunately installed rather shallow in a few areas and has been struck in the past. And so the new line will be deeper in a much safer location and provide quite a bit more reliability for the extremely critical communications needs out at the airport.
Thanks, Brian. And I'm not sure if this next question is for you or Corey, but will the Centennial Drive Walking Bridge project include an update to the sidewalk between Gamble and Burtness?
Yeah, I could take that one as well. The West Centennial project is that enhanced pedestrian crossing, which is a speed table, is what that's called. It doesn't mean you should speed by any means, but it's an elevated concrete crossing throughout that asphalt street. That'll transition to the west side of Centennial. At that point, we'll pause that work. The portion between Gamble and Burtness, we'd like the campus plan to progress to the point where there's a solid plan in place for what'll happen with Gamble long term before we make a major investment for that specific portion.
Thank you. And the next question is for Corey. Corey, is there an opportunity to provide feedback to designated personnel about the landscaping?
Sure. Yes, you could actually email myself, or you could reach out to Brian Doty, who's our Assistant Director for Maintenance.
All right, thank you so much. Vice President Mongeon-Stewart, back to you.
Thank you, Melanie. I am now going to introduce Jenny Duffy. She oversees all of the auxiliary services that are run through the facilities management area, and she is going to talk a little bit about any disruptions in parking due to construction this summer. So I will turn it over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Vice President Stewart. I want to provide a quick update on the Chester Fritz Performing Arts Center lot. We're moving forward with construction with a maintenance project that will refresh and upgrade the entire area. This project will begin in June and is scheduled to be completed before move-in weekend in August. The work includes a brand new asphalt surface, curb repairs, updated signage, and improvements to the median areas. The updates are designed to improve safety, traffic flow, and the overall look and feel of the space. Because this is such a large project, construction will happen in phases. You can expect partial closures throughout the summer as contractors work section by section, and we'll be communicating with those areas that are most impacted as the project progresses throughout the summer. In addition to the construction work at the Chester Fritz Performing Arts Center lot, we will be doing routine summer maintenance in parking lots across campus. This can be a lot of repairing potholes, cleaning lots, painting stripes on lots, and then there'll be some maintenance projects over at the ramp. And then again, any impacts to parking during these activities will be posted on the parking updates blog throughout the summer. And that is all I have.
Excellent, thank you so much. My camera's just a little slow. Vice President Mongeon-Stewart, did you have something you'd like to add?
I do not. I was going to give a few more minutes to see if there's some additional questions that we can answer, because this really covers the agenda that I was hoping to get through. But I want to make sure folks have time to ask any relevant questions they want to ask while I've got the whole group. And while our guests out there are thinking about what they want to ask, I just want to give a tremendous shout out to my entire facilities management team. There has been lots of changes in leadership and just the transformation on this campus that has occurred over the last 10 years has been absolutely incredible. And we would not be where we are today if it wasn't for the leadership of the individuals that you've met today. And just so I've occasionally been getting questions about, are you going to replace the associate vice president position in facilities? And I have to say, due to the stellar work that is happening right now with my team, we do not have plans to fill that position, because why fix it if it's perfect already? And so I just want to take this opportunity to really congratulate my team publicly for the tremendous work that they have done to keep this campus so beautiful. And so I just want to give a shout out to my team. So thank you, everyone.
Well, and I agree with all of that. Thank you so much to everybody who's worked so hard. And while you were chatting, more questions came in. So the first question I'm going to send over to Brian Larson. Brian, can minor investments be made to the sidewalk between Gamble and Burtness to address the square that seems to be a hazard all winter long?
Absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate that feedback. We actually met just yesterday with our landscaping crew on sidewalk projects, and we'll continue to spend a bit more time outdoors looking for maintenance areas and areas where we need new sidewalks. So we'll absolutely include that on the list.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question is for Jen Duffy. Jen, are there any, the question just went away. Any changes to parking fees that we can expect as we head into the new academic year?
I'm trying to get the camera on. I just posted it right when you were probably trying to read it. Yep, the permit price, there's a slight increase in permit prices this year. It is in line with what was announced last spring. And that information is posted on the parking services website. I included it in my response. And so you can see the next several years, the rates.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then while I have you on the screen, will there be any parking maps available for download or use? We've talked about some of the changes that'll be happening with all of the construction that could be sent out or will be posted online.
The PDFs have been taken offline due to kind of some changes with accessibility requirements. And so there is the UND map. I do believe there's a way to download that as a PDF. But if you need a map, we can definitely email one via like a PDF via email. So just reach out to the parking services team and we can help create a like custom map, I guess, for events too if you need. So happy to help in any way we can.
Thank you so much.
And I think that's great feedback. Melanie, sorry. We may want to add some additional parking information with these road closures. So I will work with Jenny and her team to get some information on the parking website as well, especially in light of all of these construction projects, to let folks know, here's where you can park once you weave your way around the campus. So I'll work with Jenny to make sure that happens. That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
And Vice President Mongeon-Stewart, while I have you on the screen, and what are the long-term plans for Gamble Hall? I know since we have people that are moving into Gamble Hall, it was previously on the list to be taken down. Can you provide an update to the community about what's going to be happening?
Absolutely. So we do not have any plans in the short term to take Gamble down. It's been a godsend for us to be able to get out of Columbia Hall, and we are investing significant dollars to make it a beautiful space for our clinic and some of our arts and science folks that are going to be relocating to that area. Of course, in the campus master plan, we're looking at all of our buildings that would technically be called end of life, or they would need major upgrades to maintain. And so because Gamble was originally going to be taken down when we built the new College of Business building, there's a lot of deferred maintenance long-term that we didn't do to that property because we thought we were going to be taking it down. But I want to assure folks there is no short-term plan of taking Gamble down. We are committed to keeping that space for the purposes that we have moved folks in there for, and we're making the updates to the building that we need in order to ensure that the systems are working and that the folks that are in that building are comfortable when they're at work. Thanks for the question.
Thanks so much. The next question, I'm going to turn over to Brian Larson again. Brian, are there any plans on the protected turn lights at 42nd and Gateway to accommodate the additional traffic that will be using that intersection when 42nd and DeMers close?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think a really good thought planning ahead. We'll share that with our partners at the City of Grand Forks in their engineering department and get a response to share with the group.
Thank you for that. The next question I'm going to send over to Jen Duffy, and it's a parking question unrelated to the construction. They're seeing a lot more vehicles that appear to be in our residential parking, cars that are parked in the same spots for days, even weeks on end, often in the best spots, lower floors, near doors, etc. Are there things that parking can or will do to ensure that parking is available daily for commuters? Higher prices for overnight parking, or making any residential parking on higher floors, etc.
Thank you for the question. Most of the overnight zones on campus are, I guess there's not commuter students and overnight or commuter employees or students over in the same zones as overnight permits. The one exception is the ramp, which may be what you're referring to. And we can definitely take a look at your comments and assess. I kind of just some lot utilization, and we can do some tracking of vehicles and try to observe. There aren't any intended changes for next fall, but we would need to study it and to assess what we could do to make changes to that if it's necessary.
Thanks, Jenny. And one more question regarding parking. What will happen with the handicap parking that's at Burtness over the summer?
All right, my camera is not coming back out. There it goes. Is there a project, Brian, that would close that area down? I'm sorry, I'm not aware. Okay,
Yeah, the handicap parking in the Burtness Theater lot, that'll remain open throughout the reconstruction of West Centennial. There will be a few days this summer as we're tying in the pavement right at the opening to the access road into the Burtness parking lot, that we may have some partial closures. We'll try to do that off hours, weekends or evenings to not impact parking in that lot. We know that there's going to be some housing staff in those buildings as well as faculty that needs to access there. So we'll do our best to keep everything open.
and I would just add to that in just in general, anytime there are construction projects or other projects that impact ADA parking, we do our best to try to find another alternative or accommodation, temporary parking space to. So if there is somebody that needs that, please reach out to the parking services team.
Okay, thank you. I think this question goes to Corey. Corey, can the sidewalk in front of McCannell also be looked at? It dips down and it fills with water and ices over as the snow melts. Several staff have fallen on it this winter when it gets extremely icy.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback again. Yes, we will make sure that that's added to our hardscape list of issues that we'll track this summer. Some of them are a little more complicated than just adjusting that one piece of sidewalk, but we'll definitely add it to our list of concerns that we should look at addressing in the future.
And Corey, the next question, have there been any thoughts on replacing the bricks that are breaking down on the walkways?
Yes, that's also on the list to address with our summer projects.
All right, I think this one might be for you as well, Corey. The timing of snow removal and the treating of icy sidewalks seemed to not be well synced with the winter weather and when campus opened on time, despite accumulating snow and ice. Are there plans to improve this? Many people had near misses or falls on the ice this year, but it was an extremely icy winter this year.
Yeah, we do. Again, we appreciate all feedback related to snow removal. This was my first full year into it. Brian Doty, our assistant director for maintenance, who oversees that area, his first winter also. We are looking at reviewing all of our processes and basically putting together whatever we need to ensure that we can timely get everywhere we need to, that we're not missing any lots, we're not missing ADA spots, and that may involve some actually using software or whatnot for the first time, possibly next winter. We're going to be looking at some of that this summer, testing it on the mowing side to see how well it will work for snow removal. So, but again, we appreciate all the feedback, and we please never hesitate to call into the Ops Center with areas of concern so that we can address them immediately.
Thank you. And this is a fun question for landscaping. So Corey, I'm going to send it over to you. Is there a master campus plan for landscaping? Since I was here in 2022, I've noticed more use of annuals and perennials, and I've wondered about the possible plans for using native prairie or North Dakota plants.
That's a good question. We're actually in the process of reviewing our plantings, our flowers, that type of thing. And there most likely is a long-term plan. However, I'm not quite ready to speak on that yet. So, but it's definitely something we can look into. Again, appreciate the feedback.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to one just went. I'm going to send this next question over to Brian Larson. Brian, what is the future of Johnstone, Fulton, and Smith residence halls?
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. Fulton Hall is currently offline, and then our campus planning consultant, Perkins and Will, as well as the steering committee here on campus, We'll be focusing on housing in the future of those buildings, as well as any other new housing facilities throughout the campus planning process.
Thank you. And another question for you, Brian. Have there been any updates regarding the land on the northwest corner of campus, the CC Court Apartments area?
Yeah, thank you again. Yeah, the Carlton Court apartment area, that area was designated as a potential development site. A short time ago, a request for information was sent out to potentially interested vendors, gathering feedback for how that area could be best used. Those responses have been reviewed by a committee here on campus made up of faculty, staff, and leadership. That feedback will shortly be turned into a request for proposals, again, seeking opportunities to activate and enhance the use of that corner of campus.
Thanks. And here's another fun question for you, Brian. With all the construction, will it impact our KiwiBot food delivery services?
Yeah, it will certainly impact the routes with West Centennial being closed and a number of our sidewalk projects. But we'll do our best to take care of those cute little robots and keep them going.
Thank you. And another question for you. Are the trains still passing through all of this during the 42nd and DeMers underpass project?
They are. When I showed the slides earlier showing the temporary bypass for vehicles on DeMers, similarly, there is a railroad bypass, which is called a shoe fly in the rail industry. So they're going to take that train line and bump it around to the north of the construction site to allow for the construction of the bridge. So trains will continue to pass. That is the BNSF main line that's being impacted. So it's extremely important for commerce and transportation that line remains open.
Thank you. I think this next question is for Corey. And it's just more of a comment for feedback. Corey, there's a note that there's quite a few that cattle pass. I think it's just the high traffic density between West Hall and the Chester Fritz parking lot. And they're wondering if that can be looked at.
We did. We actually just started talking about that one, as Brian mentioned yesterday. And we may look at fencing off around the electrical equipment along the west side of the building that would still give access to the equipment, but push students out to the sidewalks because we've noticed the same thing. So.
All right, great. Thank you. The next question I'm going to address to Jen Duffy. Are there any changes being considered for the lot behind the boardroom? With the rezoning that happened this year for special student-only permits, this lot seems to have frequent open spots, and they're wondering if it could be utilized by faculty and staff.
Are there changes to, can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Sure. They're wondering if there can be any changes made to the parking lot that's behind the boardroom. It was designated as student only, and we often see open spots. Yes.
There are no changes intended for that lot this fall. We're actually hoping to increase the number of permits available, reserve permits available for students due to very high demand.
And Jen, are there any details on any changes that are being made to the Burtness Gamble lot with the expected increase of people parking in there the next few years?
There will be some changes made to accommodate the Northern Plains, and sorry, the clinic, you know what I'm referring to, I apologize. There will be some changes in the lot to accommodate their patients, some reserved parking spaces. Outside of that, there is not significant changes planned for that lot.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is for Corey. Corey, will pedestrian traffic need to navigate fully to the north or the south during the Centennial reconstruction?
Yes, they will. And I don't know if Brian has any additional information on this, but staying along University Avenue, or you're going to have to go around through the Twomley side. Much of that will be shut down for the duration of that project.
Yeah, that's right, Corey. The sidewalk that crosses along University Avenue at West Centennial. That will remain open, and then the road will be closed south of there.
Okay. And the next question, I believe, will go to Jen again. Who patrols the short and tall in the bookstore parking lot? Are all of the spaces for customers in the center of the apartment building? They're saying they haven't had much luck finding parking spots.
So that is Dakota Commercial. That is not managed or monitored by UND. And I would refer you to Dakota Commercial. My understanding is that space is for commercial tenants, but
Thank you. And this for Brian. We've noticed that the flame is out a lot. It's my understanding that it would be open, if the flame would be lit 24/7. Who should they call when they notice that the flame is out?
Yeah, thank you. Please call the operations center. The intention is that the flame is always burning, of course, but there's a mechanical unit there that sometimes needs a little bit of work. Recent improvements have been installed that should give us a bit more of a reliable flame. But if that is noticed, we would appreciate a call to the op center. We'll address it right away.
And then Brian, you mentioned that the train will be rerouted, but it'll continue to operate. The question here is, where will the train be rerouted, and will it affect any other roads or traffic flow?
The train will be rerouted just slightly to the north of the current path across 42nd. So it'll run slightly closer to the Tech Accelerator building. And then it'll return to its current alignment. So it will not impact any further streets other than what I've shown with 42nd and DeMers.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. And then Brian, are there any upcoming constructions plans for the Chester Fritz Library or the Chester Fritz Performing Arts Center?
Yeah, we do have some updates planned for this coming summer at the Chester Fritz Performing Arts Center. We're going to be working on an elevator modernization. That project has been awarded and will happen this summer. We're completing the design on a restroom upgrade and also making some enhancements to the balconies that face the east towards the coulee to allow those to be used for events. So please stay tuned for a number of upgrades at the Chester Fritz Performing Arts Center. And then related to the library, there's also a number of project requests at the library as well, continuing to enhance the offerings there.
Thank you. And the next question is for Jenny. Jenny, are there any plans to update or work on the maintenance of the parking wraps? There are ceilings that are leaking and lots of eyesore locations, and the wrap is increasingly the entry point for visitors to campus for events and visits.
we have a project open right now, replacing the joint seal throughout the fifth floor of the ramp, and then we're hoping to move down floor by floor as that vendor is able to do the work. Unfortunately, that work can only be done in the summer months, so it might be a multi-year project, but that will help with the leaking. And then there are a number of projects that are happening at the parking ramp. There's some elevator work, some system work being done, and then we're going to be the skywalk. We're going to do some kind of refreshing there, and we're not going to do a complete update of that until we get the seal joint work all replaced, and then we'll look at updated paint and carpet.
Thank you. And the next question I'm going to send over to Brian Larson. Brian, will the Columbia Road Bridge remain open this summer, and are there any construction plans for that?
Yeah, thankfully the Columbia Road overpass project is wrapped up, and so the overpass will remain open. There is future projects planned by the city at University Avenue to the east of Columbia, as well as on the far north end of Columbia in Gateway. Those projects are planned for 2027 or 2028. And so we'll continue to get feedback from the city. But thankfully the Columbia Road overpass will be open.
Thank you so much. We've had such great questions. I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Mongeon-Stewart and then President Armacost as we close. Over to you, Karla.
Thank you so much. Again, I just want to thank everyone. We had a great turnout for this town hall. We would love your feedback about if this was beneficial, if this is something you would like to see us do annually. we really want to do a great job in sharing information with the campus community, and we thought we would try this and see if this was a good way to share information about all of the changes in construction and driving and parking. So we would love feedback if you felt this was valuable, if you would like us to continue this. So again, I just want to thank everyone for attending and giving us your lunch hour to hear about these updates. With that, I will pass it over to President Armacost.
Thanks, Karla. And thanks to everybody for being here today. I think we topped out at about 345. It's great that you take such an active interest in our campus. And I think hopefully what you saw today were the great leaders on our campus who take all of your concerns very, very seriously. And so thanks to Brian and Corey and Jenny for their leadership and for their presentations today. And as they kept saying throughout, when you identified a problem in the chat, they said, hey, listen, we're working on it, or we'd love to fix it. Thanks for letting us know. This is the heart and soul of how they operate. And so if there are issues, I think you heard it over and over again, call the operations center if there's any issues, safety issues or repair issues that you identify on the campus, and they will act promptly as possible to fix things or to handle ice and other hazards that might be on the campus. And let me thank all of you, A, for being here, but B, we talked about the campus plan that's being worked on by Perkins and Will and the whole team, Karla and her team, and Les and his leadership role. We had, in the survey process and in the forums that we've actually had 2,900 people across the campus involved. Actually, that's just in the survey responses. And so let me thank you for your interest in the future of our campus, because we know that the spaces and places that we have really matter to the learning environments that we're setting up. And speaking of learning environments, just a reminder, commencement is just around the corner. It's our Super Bowl or World Series. It's the thing that we do. It's how we celebrate what we do here at the University of North Dakota. So let's congratulate all of our students and offer our thanks to everybody across the campus, faculty members, staff members, administrators, who make this possible for so many students who graduate from UND. Have an awesome day, everybody. We'll see you soon.